In this video, we are doing a full workshop on how to make thumbnails inside of Photoshop. And these are the exact techniques that I've used to make thumbnails just like this, where I have gotten millions of views on my channel. So these are proven techniques that'll work to help you get clicks. And this is definitely going to be a longer video because it's kind of like a full workshop. So be prepared to sit down, watch the content, kind of learn how I've used the different tools inside of Photoshop. So that way you can replicate my style and be able to use it on your own channel. So with that, let's go ahead and hop into the video. All right, so one of the first things I do before I actually get into Photoshop is I will open up YouTube and I will search for videos related to my topic and kind of get some inspiration. Now, the video I'm doing is kind of how to make After Effects edits in CapCut, which I don't think there's really a comparable video for that one specifically, but still for anything else, like if I'm making a video editing tutorial, I want to take a look at some of the thumbnails of other people that have done this successfully to where I could take inspiration from and be able to create my own. So that way, I'm not just guessing at what works. I can actually take a look at what has performed in the past. So learning from competitors, learning from other people who were successful, creating content in the topic area that you are making a video in that is useful. But I think I have a few ideas I'm going to go with here. So I'm just going to click New File. I'm choosing 1920 by 1080 for my thumbnail. Technically, I think thumbnails are in 720p, which I think is 1280 by 720p, but that's okay. It'll still adjust to size. YouTube will. So I'm just going to click Create. And here we are with a blank canvas. And with Photoshop, I don't know how to use like the majority of these tools, okay? And you don't need to know them either. You'll learn them as you go. But I am going to show you the ones, at least the ones that relate to thumbnails that I've personally used. That will be helpful for you in creating your video or your thumbnail. So just some things to point out here. On the far left side, you have all your tools and little adjustment things that you can do. On the far right side, you have like your adjustments and things that you can adjust. So if you look down here, you've got under adjustments, hue and saturation, brightness, levels, exposure, some other things in here. And then this little section is where all your layers are going to pop up. So as I add the photo of me and I design the background and I add text, this is all going to pop up in this layers section. And yeah, let's just go ahead and create the thumbnail and I'll show you the tools I'm using for this. So the first one I'm going to do is click on this square rectangle tool and I can just drag across the entire white spot here and it's going to make a color. So I'm thinking I'm going to go with blue. That's what I usually do. Go for like a blue color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a darker blue here. I just clicked the color thing there. And I'm actually probably going to go for a more saturated blue. And I'm going to start off with a dark color here. Awesome. And then what I'm going to do is double click on this, switch to this ellipse tool, and I'll also click enter. You can't make changes if something's selected. You can tell if something's selected if it's got these black, well, not black, these corner pieces here. So I can click enter. Now those disappeared. And then I'm going to draw a circle here, like so. And then I'm going to make this a lighter version of that. Maybe a little bit more to the brighter side. Something similar to that. So right now this looks like complete junk. And what are you designing, Colin? But what we're going to do is click this button here. And in here, this masks, I can actually feather out this color. So instead of it being sharp edges, as I move this over, you can see the edges are starting to be more faded, like so. And now this looks 10 times better because now it's like, oh, there's this like highlight here and it adds more interest. Instead of there just being a stale color on screen like this and then put all my thumbnail elements in, it looks really boring versus having another little circle or thing in there of a different, of a lighter color, or even if you went with white. For a while in the past, I would just do white and I would really feather it out. Or I'd make it a lot smaller than this so it looked good. But now I'll just do lighter colors inside there. Now we have a pretty good starting point. So I'm thinking on the right side here, I'm going to have myself. I may adjust these colors in a bit. And then I'll also have all my elements over here. But by just playing around with like the rectangle and the ellipse tool, you can actually create a whole bunch of backgrounds that are pre-designed for you. And so that way, every time you don't have to create these, you can just drag and drop the photo you already designed of the background you like into your project, and then you can start adding yourself and everything like that. All right, so next I'm going to add a photo of myself. I'm going to go to Finder here, or just go to your files. And I have so many different weird thumbnail pieces that I can use. With weird names too. So let me go to those real quick. So I believe one of these is the one I wanted to use. As you can see, I have a whole bunch of different like pictures of myself that I can use for thumbnails that, I already just did a photo shoot of. And this was forever ago. This was Colin Bald November thumbs. This was 1 year ago, and I'm still using photos from this photo shoot from over a year ago. So that's how useful doing like these photo shoots could be. So I think it was that one I wanted to go with, where it's kind of like a point over. Yeah, I think this is it. So we're going to drag and drop this one in. Give it a second. And what'll sometimes happen is when you drag and drop the photo in, it'll take you into this really nice photo editor. This is basically Lightroom in the Adobe suite. So I can adjust like the light, the color. The one thing I love using is the color mixer. This is you can control the HSL similar to CapCut. But you can control the saturation of colors, the luminance of colors to make a color brighter or darker. So you can see my shirt is really vibrant. And then also, if you don't know, I have rosacea. So I usually have really red skin. So I was able to actually decrease the redness and turn up the luminance of the red to where it's not really showing on my face in the thumbnail, because probably just doesn't look appealing. So yeah, I've really customized the colors here, made this really stand out. I'm just going to click OK, add this in here. And as you can see, you're like, what the heck's going on? It's because our ellipse circle on the far right here is above our picture. So I just got to drag it on top. There we go. So that's kind of how those layers work. Everything's layered one on top of another, and got to make sure they're in the right layer spot. But cool, we got our photo in. The next thing we want to do is remove the background. And probably the easiest way to do this is this tool over here, object selection tool or quick selection tool. I'm just going to do the object selection tool here. And all I got to do is click on myself, and Photoshop is pretty smart in selecting everything. And then what I can do is click Command J, or I think on Windows it'll be Control J if I'm not mistaken, but Command J. And now I have copied that into my project. I'm just going to click on this and delete the old photo. And there we go. We have the background removed. Now you'll notice there is a little bit of my chair is showing here. So I can easily go over to this erase tool. I can go up here and adjust the size of the erase tool. And here, I'm going to go to this, and I'm just going to erase it. I can zoom in as well and make sure that all that's removed. Someone needs to see that chair. And there we go. That looks pretty good. What I can also do is I can double click on the layer of my photo, and you can do this with any layer. And I can also add some other adjustments here. So if I want to have like a white stroke around me, like you'll see some creators, well, that's an inside stroke, I think. I think this might be the right stroke. See, now I have this like black outline, and it looks like I didn't do a good job erasing because there's these black spots on the bottom there. Where's my erase tool? I am on it. There we go. There's some. There, that's better. All right, so I could have that black stroke around me. I could also change the color. So if you want to have the white stroke like you see some creators have, you can do that. What I like to do is at least just add some drop shadow on the bottom here. And I usually, let me get this right here. You can increase the size. So I just like having some shadow there. I think that looks pretty decent. I might change the little opacity a little bit there. Cool. Just so there's some shadow, I feel like it makes me stand out a bit more. And then what I'm going to do to move this over to the corner, I'm going to click Command T, or on Windows, it should be Control T, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of those buttons in the bottom left of your keyboard. That'll allow me to select it. I could drag myself over to the corner, and then I'm also going to hold down Shift and grab the corner here, and that is going to allow me to increase the size. If you don't hold Shift, what ends up happening is you could stretch and drag in all these weird ways where it's going to look wonky. And you can always reverse doing Control Z or Command Z to get back to if you make a mistake in here. But if you hold Shift and then grab that corner, you can increase the size there. Sometimes it glitches. There we go. And now I am over in the corner here, ready to point at, the CapCut and text and stuff. I might adjust this a little more. The one thing I am doing, though, that is really important is I'm making sure I'm big and easy to see in the far corner. I've seen some people where they're fully zoomed out and they're tiny and it's hard to see them, especially if they're on a mobile device. So I always make sure I'm almost as zoomed in as possible, so that way people recognize my face. They've seen me in other videos, and just also it's just easier to see a face, and then also what's going to go on here. All right, so the next thing is a little thing is I've technically got the Nike symbol here. I don't know if that's really a big deal, but I do like to just erase it just for the sake of, I'm not sponsored by Nike or something to that effect. So we're going to actually erase this. So I'm going to use something called the stamp tool. So I'm going to click on this. And what I can actually do is I'm going to click Option, hold down Option, or one of the bottoms on the bottom left. I believe that's on Windows. And then click. And now I have cloned that section of my shirt. So I can actually click over here and cover up this part of my shirt because it's like the same pattern. There we go. Nike pattern's gone. And that was really quick. I just used the stamp tool, held down Option to copy that part of my shirt, and then put it over there. If you look really closely, it does look weird, but if someone's looking on a thumbnail, no one's noticing that I just covered up a logo there. So that's a very easy way if you want to cover up a logo in a shirt. It also just keeps the shirt simplistic too. I don't want to draw attention to my shirt. I want to draw attention to, what I'm talking about over here. But sweet, this is a great start. The next thing I want to probably do is add in the CapCut logo and the After Effects logo. Now, I actually don't think I have an After Effects logo. So I'm just going to search After Effects, PNG, go to Images. Usually one of the top ones are good. And I usually look for images that have the white and gray squares behind it. That usually means it's an actual PNG image. Which if it is a real PNG image, when we save this, and we'll just save it as After Effects Logo 1, download. Now what'll happen is when we go over to Photoshop, I'm going to go to Finder, going to go to Downloads. I can literally just drag and drop this into Photoshop. Again, I put it behind that layer, which is a little annoying. There we go. It's in Photoshop here. I can click Command T or Control T, and then I'm going to hold Shift to resize it. And there we go. We have it here. We can drag it around everywhere. So we are going to leave that there for now. And then we'll also go and get the CapCut one, which I already have downloaded. Here it is. Just going to grab that and drag it in. There we go. And then Shift, resize. There we go. I've got my two elements in here. Now, the style I had for this thumbnail in my head was I'd have After Effects and then like an X by it, and then CapCut with like a check mark by it is what I was thinking might be interesting. So I want to make sure these are pretty close to the same size. So maybe I'm going to drag this over the top of the other one and then resize it just to make sure they're similarly sized. And then also you see those pink lines will help you make sure you line things up properly. There we go. That looks pretty good. And then what I'm going to do is go to text. We're going to type text. Right now I'm in this weird font because I was doing something else earlier. But normally I like to use Avenir Next is my go-to. And I'll do the bold of that is usually my go-to. But for this, what I'm actually going to do is click the emoji button on my MacBook. If you don't have that, you may just have to install emojis somehow, or you could always download an XPNG. I'm going to click on this X. There we go. I just want to see what this looks like. at full size. This is going to be something I want to go through. I don't know if I'm a big fan of that, but let's just go with it for now. And then we'll also do the check mark. Yeah, why is that? That looks really, that does not look, does the font affect it? Oh, here we go. Apple color emoji. There we go. So we want to make sure we choose that for each of these. So with like text selected up in this corner, you'll see like the font stuff, adjusting the sizes and stuff. Also here, yeah, you'll just find all that up here. Anything related to that. I'm going to go to Apple color because that's what I'm picturing in my head. This can just go off to the side there. Cool. So that looks much better. I think I accidentally typed for this one. There we go. That's better. So here we go. Let's resize that. All right, and there's my first thumbnail concept, and now that I'm viewing this personally, I'm not a big fan of it, but as I like to do, and as I have also taught, is you don't just make one thumbnail. You never do that, because your first thumbnail, if I'm like, well, I made this already, I went through all this work, I'm just going to go with this one because I'm lazy. Your video's not going to perform well, because you're being lazy about it. So you need to make sure that you are making multiple thumbnails. And then also what I'll probably do later is compare this thumbnail to other thumbnails that are out there just to make sure mine has a competitive advantage. Even though right now, all the people talking on this have like horribly designed thumbnails. Like if I go to YouTube and I search After Effects CapCut, like the thumbnails themselves are like weird screen grabs or things like this, where it's like, here's CapCut compared to After Effects. Like I mean, it's a simple thumbnail, but there's nothing really amazing or spectacle there. And there's these names here, which I don't even know who those people are. That doesn't help me. Here's like Premiere Pro versus CapCut thumbnail. You know, there's not a lot here, and a lot of this stuff isn't even really related to After Effects and CapCut. So there's not a lot for me to compare. But just looking at this, it's like there's a lot to look at. Like, I not only have to look at this face, but I have to look at After Effects and the X and then the CapCut and then the check mark. It just feels like it's a little too cluttered, but I'm still going to export this. So in order to export a thumbnail, you click File, and then you're going to click Export, and then I'm going to click Export As, and I want to make sure it's a JPEG, so it's a lower resolution, but it's not going to hurt your thumbnail. It just has to be lower resolution to upload to YouTube. Because if you do just a straight PNG, it's going to say like too big of a size. So usually quality at a 6 is good enough. We click Export, and I'll name this CapCut After. Here, we'll do Cap After Effects Thumb 1. Because I know I'm going to make more. So there we go. We got our first thumbnail. All right, so now let's get into some variety stuff. First, I'm going to get rid of the check and the X. And maybe I'm actually going to get rid of the After Effects thing. Maybe we'll just do the CapCut logo here. And let's increase it and put it up here. And then let's actually add some text in underneath. Because that's been the style of thumbnails I have done in the past, if you know my channel. Like if you look at all my thumbnails, they all have the CapCut logo and some text underneath. For the most part, or just whatever the app logo is. Like that's been my style, and that's what's worked and got people to click. So let's do one similar to that. All right, so I'm going to do After, and then Command T. Going to increase the size here. And we are on a font that we don't want. I'm going to go back to our Avenir next. We want it to be bold. There we go. And obviously, we want this text to be white. As I've also said, I usually stick with white text or black text, just because it's very easy to read and see. I'm actually going to shrink this down a little bit more and move this up. So I'll actually do each line its own separate text. So After Effects, and then do the next line here of edits. And now that I'm thinking about it, the logo for After Effects has a purple background. Now I'm wondering, maybe I should put a purple background around After Effects. because that might, even though I'm not showing the After Effects logo, if I'm showing this purple color and that is the background behind this text, that might communicate After Effects without me actually having to show the logo. So I'm actually going to go over to this tool again, square, and we're going to increase the size just like this. And then I'm also going to move it in the layer here behind After. There we go. Zoom in. Going to adjust this a bit. Here we go. Awesome. And then I should be able to click the color tool. And I think there is a button I can do here. I thought there was a button I could click where I could choose a color from my scene. Oh yeah, I can just drag over. Boom. Selected. Now I have that same purple color. So all I had to do is click on colors. And then when I leave this color box, I can select anything, anywhere. So boom, I've got it. Awesome. Which is exactly what I want. Same color. And then I'm also going to make another box here around effects. Awesome. Let's go ahead and hide our After Effects thing here. And then what we'll also probably want to do is add some shadow behind After and effects. So I'm going to double click on After, click drop shadow, make sure that's full opacity. I'm affecting After here, so I want to make sure I can see that. Just want to make sure it's very obvious. It's already kind of dark, so I don't know if it's really that noticeable that there's shadow there. Not really noticeable. I could also change the text color technically to that After Effects. I guess let's just see what that looks like. So we'll select the... Yeah, see, like that doesn't stand out super well. I feel like the white stands out a bit more. I'm just curious also what a box around edits is going to look like. I'd probably make this like a black box, I'm thinking. So let's give that a resize here. Switch that color. So then there's a thumbnail that could look like this. Yeah, that doesn't look insanely good. Like, it's big text, it's easy to read, but it just doesn't look right. I'm actually going to just extend these boxes a little bit. Just give the text here some room to breathe inside the box. See if that helps at all. And maybe readjust this CapCut logo a bit. I mean, I guess that could be a possible one. I don't like it. I think this looks bad. But let's export it anyway. We wanted to have multiple thumbnail options here, so let's go ahead and send this out. All right, let's change this up a bit. Let's change the background color here to purple, because purple is like an After Effects kind of thing. So let's throw a purple background, and then we'll also change the ellipse here, the circle down here. We're going to change that color. All right, well, the ellipse is being weird. I'm going to just delete it and add another ellipse tool option here. Change the color, lighten it up. Increase that. Might make this purple a bit darker, but there we go. We're going to go to this mask tool, feather, create some feathering effect. Nice. Go back to this purple, make it a little darker. And then let's also just delete these boxes for now. See what this looks like. And what I'm actually going to do here for a second here, I'm just going to experiment and kind of try a few things here, and just to see if I can create a few other variations here, just using the tools I've already talked about here, just to see what I can find. I won't bore you with all my weird attempts here and weird iterations. Maybe I'll just speed through this, just so you guys can see me go through all these different iterations, but yeah, let me do that. All right, so back with the commentary. Here's right now what I've got. I've got CapCut logo here. I have it tilted a little bit, along with the After Effects thing. And if you ever want to tilt something, you just, when you Command T, so if you select something and click Command T, one of the layers, you can hover over it and then you'll see that shape. And that allows you to do like rotations and stuff. But have that rotate a bit. I also adjusted the colors more. Now I have a really dark purple on the edges. And then also a really light purple, so that way you can really see the After Effects stand out. And then for the text, I right now just have it saying edits, because one of the things that, if we go back to After Effects CapCut here on YouTube, you'll see a lot of language of that. Recreating AE edits on CapCut, After Effects versus CapCut. But you'll notice this edits kind of talk when it comes to After Effects. I want to use that exact same kind of language that my audience is most likely responding to, and what they understand as, After Effects edits. So by having just edits as my text, I feel like that might help stand out. But one of the things I want to fix here, or I'm thinking about fixing, is how dark this purple is. And this is something important to learn about too. So what I actually want to do is try and increase the brightness and adjust the logo here a bit just to help it stand out a bit more. So I want to apply some brightness to the purple. So I'm going to click on brightness and contrast in adjustments. But what will happen, and you'll notice, is as I turn the brightness up, it brightens everything up and not just the one, I just want it to affect this logo, not everything. So what you can do is create something called a clipping mask. So what you can do is, you'll notice that brightness and contrast is in the layers here. You can double click or click with two fingers, or right click on a computer. Scroll down through these options, and you'll see Create Clipping Mask. What this will do is, the only thing that will be affected is the layer directly underneath it. So when I click this, now I'm only affecting, you'll see a little arrow here, it's only affecting this layer here. So now when I increase the brightness, it's only affecting the logo here. And I can also adjust the contrast. I might make it a little more contrasty, This is what it originally was. This was it at 0. Obviously, there's some contrast there. That's so dark. So I want to turn this up so it's bright. It's easy to see. So that way, on a thumbnail, especially far away, I want this to be very, very obvious that, yes, I'm talking about After Effects here. And just kind of have it pop and stand out more because we're doing After Effects edits. So I really want people to see that. But this clipping mask is super useful, especially if you want certain things to only affect like a single layer or something like that. All right, I think I'm going to make some slight adjustments, and I think this thumbnail is going to be done. A real quick thing I want to share, and then I'll get back to finishing this. If you want to move, I have the text here, and then I also have a black rectangle behind it. If you ever wanted to move this text again, you'll notice that you'll drag it and the black box doesn't follow, and you have to move each layer, which is kind of annoying. So what you can do is select this, and then holding Command, or I'm guessing Control on PC, you can select the next layer, click Command T, and now you have both layers selected. So now this box is going to move anywhere I move it. So I can recenter it, make sure it's actually where I want it to be, and then I can deselect them, and we're good. So if you ever need to do that, you can select it. I feel like that might be something useful that you might utilize. But all right, let me finish this. All right, so I think this is our third thumbnail we've got set and ready to go. So let's go ahead and export this one out. What I also did, just to mention before I export it, I turned up the saturation color on this. Now this is way more to the right here, just so it's a more brighter and vibrant background. I also have a white ellipse going across that's just white and very feathered out. That was also a change I did, and that kind of brightened everything up. But I think this might be also decent. And this looks 10 times better than the thumbnail we started with just the X and the check mark next to it. Like, I feel like this is much more clickable. So by making those multiple thumbnails, we've now improved. We're now learning, and we're getting a better result here. So let's go ahead and export this out. And I still feel like there's more that could be done. I'm not sure what this is missing that would make this better, but what I might do is a little bit of more research just to see what else, what if anyone has done anything with two apps being featured on the same screen and what that kind of looks like, and just try to get some inspiration here for what I might be able to do to help enhance at least this style. I think this is a winning style of having both logos on and a phrase at the bottom. Like, I feel like there's not a lot there, but there is a lot, and it'll work great with the title. I feel like there is something missing. So I'm going to go ahead, and I will fast forward this part, but unless I have something to say, I'll come back here. Now, I already have some input that I do want to share. Now, for example, maybe I look at this thumbnail, and I'm like, ooh, I love how this is designed. I'm going to go and make something similar. Something to keep in mind is the view count versus the channel subscriber count. I have vidIQ right now installed, so it lets me see all the subscriber counts without actually having to click on the channel. But this only got 25K views from a channel with 849,000 subscribers in 4 months. I probably shouldn't pay attention or do what they did if they obviously didn't get clicks. Now, part of it too is, you know, their topic idea. Obviously, this is related to Premiere Pro and After Effects. So, you know, it is a different topic, but, you know, it's just a little something to keep in mind was how clickable was this video to begin with. So don't just take every thumbnail as inspiration per se. Like, you can, but that's just something I'm keeping in mind as I'm looking at these, is I'm looking at, okay, how well did this video perform, and do I really want to copy a video that didn't perform well, is basically the logic there. But I'm going to keep exploring. All right, here's the next thumbnail I'm doing. All I really did with this one is I adjusted the ellipse color a bit more, and also kind of messed with the brightness of After Effects, and then got rid of the box for behind the text. So here's another one going to our pile of thumbnails. Now, maybe one last thing I'm going to try. I think I'm going to go with this for the thumbnail, but one last thing I do want to try is adjusting the color of my shirt to see if that helps make this thumbnail pop. So the way I can do this is I can go over to my selector tool over here, and I'm going to do object selection tool, this one here. And what this does is, I'll show you here with my layer selected of myself. You want to make sure that is selected. What I can do is start selecting and just kind of moving my mouse, holding my mouse down, and it'll kind of try and figure out what I'm trying to select. So it's figuring out pretty quickly that I want to select my shirt. Sometimes it won't get it perfect, so you may have to kind of click around the edges there. And it looks like it got it for the most part. Down here it didn't, so let's click there. And you can also hold down Option and click, and that'll kind of make it go back. So I'm trying to help it figure out that I just want the shirt down there, which maybe it's not going to do it. That's okay. I feel like that's the majority of my shirt. Cool. So what I'm going to do is click Command J. So now we have just this layer here of my shirt. And then I'm going to go to Adjustments. I believe it's Hue, or maybe it's Channel Mixer. No, it's not Channel Mixer. Let's get rid of that. I do think it's hue and saturation here. So hue, I should be able to adjust the hue here of my shirt. So with it selected, I'm also going to click on this hue and saturation in the layer section and make it a clipping mask, just to make sure it's only going to apply to the shirt. And then I can adjust this and actually change the color of my shirt. Now yellow, I was looking at a color wheel, and it looks like purple here, the direct across is yellow, but I guess maybe green might work too because of pink and stuff. But it looks like dark purple, yellow, orange is the more contrasty color. If you pick the color directly across from the other color, those are the colors that are going to contrast the most and kind of stand out. But I am just going to slide this through. I kind of like the orange there, kind of stands out. Let's just see. I kind of like the green. I may adjust it a little bit more because I don't want it to be that vibrant. But this is also just a really cool tool. This would work better if my shirt didn't have these weird lines in it. If I had like a smooth shirt, this would work better, like just a plain white t-shirt. Which you could always just take a few photos in plain white t-shirts. Let's just say we go with something like a green. And we can also adjust the lightness of it, turn that down a bit. That makes it look a lot more realistic. And then I can also adjust the saturation there a bit. So I'm just going to play around with these controls a bit till I find something I like here in one of these colors. All right, I think I found my color here. So this is the original blue, and this is the green. And just flipping between these, you can see the blue. I personally think the green looks so much better against the purple than the blue did. Like, it just looks way more, I guess, complementary, I guess you could say. So I think we're definitely going to go with the green here. So let's export the green color out with this one here as well. Now, the only downside we have, and this is something I'm personally working on myself, at least when it comes to thumbnails, is now, if we go to our pictures here, we've already made all these other different changes and stuff for our thumbnails and things like that. Like, how do we go back and fix the shirt for this one and this one? Technically, we could just import this photo. I mean, we could just grab this photo and drop it in and then adjust the shirt or reline it up or whatever. Like, you could technically do that and make a mask around the shirt again. But what you can also do is if you save a project, you can actually save a copy of a project. So let's say I really like this and I'm going to do something really drastic and completely change this up. I could go to File and save a copy of this project. So I have everything set the same. So that way I'm not scared to make dramatic changes. Maybe I want to completely get rid of the After Effects logo and move everything around and change the background up. By having a saved copy of the project, I can easily go back. You know, I can click X on this project and then open up the old one and I'll still have it saved. So that's something that's probably a better best practice, one that I'm trying to implement myself. But obviously, I don't think I'd ever go with this one. Looking at this one now compared to the one we have here, even if we put them like side by side, here, let me zoom out on this one. Here, one second. I'll zoom this bit out and put this thumbnail here. Pretty similarly sized. Like, I feel like this is going to be a lot more clickable than what this was going to get us. Just a change of everything there is, yeah, I think there's a huge difference in the quality there. Now, one last thing I might try to do here before I completely am done and decide to go with this thumbnail, I'm going to go to Chrome real quick, and I just want to search After Effects timeline and just see what comes up for images. I could always open up After Effects and take a screenshot. I'm just wondering, here we go, something like this maybe. So let's save this image, After Effects timeline. And you'll also want to be careful with downloading stuff from the internet. There is copyrighted content out there, so you could get in trouble. Other YouTubers have gotten in trouble, like Mr. Beast, for not getting proper clearance for it. So just be mindful of that. It's never happened to me, but with some stuff you do want to be careful. All right, so let's drop this timeline in here. Enter, and we're going to drag this down to where the background is. It's like here, I guess. And what I'm actually going to do is with this selected, I'm going to go to opacity here, and I'm going to turn this down a bit. And I'm also going to resize this in the background. So I'll make this a little bit bigger. So now what we kind of have in the background here is some like editing stuff. Very faint. I want it to be very faint in the background. But then it's not just purple. There's like some editing timeline-esque stuff in the background. I feel like it adds something to the thumbnail. Let's actually, without it, with it, without it, with it. Maybe that looks a little cluttered. Maybe I can zoom it in a bit more to where it looks more, there's less words and more just different elements and things. That's not working as well. I think I have a CapCut one too. Let me see. Here we go. Yeah, I have a CapCut timeline here that I can use. So let's increase the size of this. Oh, there we got like the seconds, redo. Got some timeline elements there. Cool. Awesome. So let's just opacity on this one. Kind of put this in the background a bit. Like so. There we go. There's a lot less words there. But you got like some elements on the side there. So without it, with it, without it, with it. Does it add actually anything? Will that actually make it more clickable? I don't know, but it's kind of like a style choice there. I feel like that has a really cool look to it. Or maybe I'll go a little more this way, just so I have like, you can see just so there's less clutter. You know, you don't want it super cluttered, but now you can see kind of like this timeline kind of look in the background, which I think is pretty cool. And what I actually might do is now for this dark color is, as you can see, there are actually two different ones, and one of these could do well, one of them couldn't, because this has the purple, but then this shows more of a timeline, and you really don't see the ellipse circle anymore in the middle there, but you do see a timeline, which I think may have its benefits. Like that kind of communicates editing and stuff like that. So we'll keep it like this. We will export one like this too, just to see. That way, if a thumbnail isn't performing, we've got a whole bunch of different ones we can try out to see if it'll help save the video. Cool. And yeah, that's what you kind of want to do. Obviously, your topic matters as well with making a video take off. But just by making all these different thumbnail variations, we now have a ton of potential thumbnails to test out, use, especially when YouTube introduces the A/B testing for everyone. You're going to have multiple thumbnails to kind of test out to see what's going to work for your channel or what's not going to work for your channel, what's going to get you the clicks, what's not. But that is the process. That's how I make thumbnails for my videos inside of Photoshop.